do have two alternate board members here with us, Judy Gay here and Jeff McKay.
Here.
Thank you. We have our attorneys not with them.
Good morning.
And we have a City of Flagstaff staff member, Brandy Steven.
Good morning.
We have members of staff here in the room and online. And I'll turn back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moving down to the safety minute, Sam Trump.
Thank you and good morning, members of the board. Today's safety minute is on the summer season as it relates to transportation. So as we move through June and the start of another busy summer season, transit systems experience increased ridership, road congestion, and construction. These seasonal changes bring new challenges for operators, maintenance team, and support staff. With summer conditions in mind, we encourage all team members to stay focused on the following key safety practices. Operators, maintenance personnel, and field staff are at a higher risk of heat-related stress. Stay hydrated throughout your shift, take scheduled breaks, and report any symptoms such as dizziness or fatigue immediately. Longer daylight hours and increased workloads can lead to fatigue. Practice good rest habits, recognize signs of fatigue, and notify supervisors if you are not fit for duty. Look out for one another. A strong safety culture depends on teamwork. Encourage open communication, speak up about hazards, and support your colleagues in making safe decisions. Every safe trip begins with a commitment to do the right thing every time. By staying alert, prepared, and focused on safety, we protect not only ourselves, but also the passengers who rely on us daily. Let's work together to make this summer season safe, reliable, and successful for all. Thank you and welcome to the June board meeting.
Thank you. Moving down to approval of minutes. We have two meetings to approve. Can I get a motion?
Chair, I move that we approve the regular meeting minutes for 5/21/26 and a special meeting on 5/28/26.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. And we are going to switch the agenda around just one item. We are going to do the forensic audit with Brandy. She's online. Before moving to the fiscal year budget.
Good morning, all. I don't have a presentation. Ooh, let me see if I can get my camera on here. My apologies. I don't have a presentation. I just was asked to be here if you guys had any questions or concerns. So.
Thank you, Brandy. We have Heather up at the podium.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Today. No.
So I also do not have a presentation. So this is the third time that we have brought this forward for your consideration. Our staff report has remained unchanged. I did include in your packets a memo that really the City of Flagstaff asked to be sure we're considering in making a decision about whether to do or not to do a forensic audit. I included those questions in the packet for you and for your consideration. Ultimately, those questions are very similar to the questions that we walked through with Heinfield Meach last month. Per your request, I did ask that city send someone to be here in case you have questions. So thank you, Brandy, for being here. I know Rick is out of the office. And with that, I guess we would answer any questions that you have or take direction from you on this item.
So, and I apologize, I deleted the wrong meeting, so I don't have access to what was sent to us prior. Brandy, one of the questions we had last month at our meeting was, what was the opinion of the city on if we should move forward with, and our auditors gave us several different stages of forensic audit, whether it was just, I think, a year or a longer time and stuff. Can you share, and I apologize if it was already answered in the packet, but I don't have it with me. Can you share what the city feels would be prudent to do?
So we shared with Heather that if the board would like Mountain Line to do more, we did recommend you guys bring in your auditors to discuss their perspective, and it sounds like you have already done that. And ask them some questions about what additional testing they did, or if there's recommendations or areas of high risk that they are seeing. And we could get a quote to do maybe some additional auditing on some higher risk areas, or increased sampling related to, P card purchases, journal entry review, accounts payable approvals, ACH or wire transactions, just to see, because those tend to be areas that have a higher risk in general. And so, yeah, so, and then, yeah, we also asked a question if any effort was done just to make sure that there weren't any personal purchases made via P card or anything else as part of that audit and review.
So what would your recommendation be?
I don't know that the city has a recommendation that would warrant a forensic audit, but we certainly would recommend that the board is comfortable with the work the auditors have done, and if they had areas of additional concern. So I guess we would look to the auditors, the Mountain Line auditors, to see from their perspective.
Thank you.
If I may, I know Brandy was not at last month's meeting. I think Rick did attend. No, I'm sorry, Rick also was not at last month's meeting, but I met with Rick and went over the meeting. So just as a reminder for all of us on what was done. So we did have the audit, which Heinfeld Beach confirmed is a sampling. It is not a full look at every transaction. What we internally did was went back a full year to look at transactions that Josh was involved in. We've completed full bank reconciliations. All of the revenue and expenditures are accounted for. All of the vendors are legitimately set up vendors. P card transactions have been evaluated. There was no abuse or violation there. We talked through last month some of the internal control findings and how they do or don't relate to a decision about a forensic audit. So just as a reminder for all of us that many of the questions that Rick and I went over, I did not provide an additional answer because I felt like we had reviewed them and answered those exact same questions with Megan and Heinfeld Beach at last month's meeting. So just wanted to provide that as background for the discussion today.
Thank you, Heather. I have a question. I'm wondering if we were to do, and I don't know if an audit is the right word, but making sure that during this transition, that all the books, all the things we've crossed the T's, dotted the I's, that we can hand this over to the interim and then to the next CEOs, saying we have looked at everything, the books are all in order, we had a third party come in and just do maybe a little fine tuning, double check what they feel were the hot spots, do one last check before we hand this all over. I don't know if that's where my mind is. I don't know if it's really diving deep into every single thing. It sounds like we've done the sampling and there were a couple of questions and issues. But having a third party just look at the books to make sure that we're sending things forward clean and good, and we can tell the community we've, looked at everything. We have a new interim, looking for a new CEO, things are good to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit with what the scope would look like, but I think our team could certainly consider that. I think that's one of the things we talked with Heinfeld Beach last week, and is in the question from the city, is maybe it's not a full forensic audit, but it's some specialty review, and we need to develop the scope of work for that. So I don't know, maybe we use the 2025 audit to identify some high risk areas, as Brandy just mentioned, and we ask for additional review of those areas. I don't know what that scope looks like, but we are certainly happy to explore it and let you know what that would be. If you'd like us to give direction, we can certainly make that scope of work up, get quotes for it, and advise. One thing I want to acknowledge is that we are now starting on our 2026 audit as we close out the year, and that 2026 audit is supposed to be concluded by early December.
Sure. I have a question. Heather, one of the things that I didn't hear,
Yeah.
and in my past experience with, being in an industry with high fraud risk, is because you mentioned that all the bank, statements are reconciled and stuff. But I also know that, and we used to call it bookkeeper fraud, the person who ran the books, they would put in an invoice, and maybe not a vendor, but just, daily for flowers or stuff. And so it would reconcile. I have an invoice for this and it's in the system like this, but where the fraud was created was that wasn't an expense for Mountain Lion.
Understood.
And so that's where I keep going back to thinking, I just in my soul can't reconcile with a person, and I understand that there was a lot going on. And this maybe triggered unusual activity, which is common. People, because of their personal life circumstances,
Sure.
do stuff that they would normally do, but you don't go from being straight and narrow to manipulating your payroll by several $1,000s a month, and that's your first fraud.
Understood.
In fact, I just don't, I feel like there's more out there. But I know that, that if you know anything about financial, record keeping at all, you know how to cover that up.
Understood. If I can talk a little bit about how Mountain Lion controls expenditures, because I think that gets at the root of what you're asking. So you have to be set up as a vendor at Mountain Lion in order to receive a payment from Mountain Lion. We don't have the ability to make random payments for services. So even our employees, Jackie travels, she has to submit a travel claim that gives those receipts that are reviewed and approved by supervisor and leadership before they're ever entered as a reconciling entry. So we have run reports that show what Josh was paid out for to confirm that they were legitimate expenditures. Josh is set up as a vendor in that respect. So we don't have a way to pay somebody that is not also a vendor. And so that's why I've been relying on the message that all the vendors are legitimate vendors of Mountain Lion. The second exposure point is P-card and P-card expenditures. P-card expenditures have an automated workflow. So an employee cannot spend on their P-card without it going through several layers of approval. And so the exact same thing, if Josh used his P-card, and I think he had very little P-card use, mostly attached to travel, those expenditures came to me for immediate review and approval. And again, receipts, justification, et cetera, were attached to them. And those have been reviewed and audited. I have no concerns that there is fraud in either of those expenditure types for that reason.
Any other thoughts or questions on this? So I think for me, again, the broad scope forensic, where we're just making sure that the books are good, moving forward so that we can all feel comfortable that it's 100% good, we're moving forward. That's important to me, and I think it would be important to our taxpayers. I don't feel we need an in-depth forensic audit, but something that we can say we've had a third party look at everything. We are done and moving forward. That's my goal, is to be able to
So
have that.
if I may make an interpretation of what I think you're saying is you would like staff to create a special review of our bookkeeping with the scope of work to be developed by myself and Megan, approved by chair and vice chair. I'm going to suggest, since we have no meeting until August, and by our interim CEO, with an assigned schedule for that work and a report to come back to the board upon its completion.
I'd like it to be an outside person.
I understood that part, sorry. A scope of work to hire a contractor
Oh.
to perform that review. I wasn't referencing an internal review.
Heather, I think you nailed what I would like to see. I'm wondering what the board. And Supervisor Vasquez, sorry.
Yes, thank you. I agree. I don't think that we need a full forensic audit. I think that what is just described would be enough. Also, I know that we are in the process of a second audit, coming in for this next year. And if there are any things that kind of residual, they'll come out in that audit. So I don't think we need to use the resources for a full-on forensic audit when we're already going through a secondary audit or a second audit for the next year, which half of those issues that we've dealt with will still be in this audit. So if they emerge, we'll see that there's still some issues. And so I think we're covered. And so I'm okay with what was just proposed by Ms. Domlin on how to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
We'll take that direction from you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Brandy. Thank you, Brandy. Okay, now to fiscal year 2027 budget. Megan.
Okay, good morning. I have no new information to present about the budget. So this is just to adopt the fiscal year 2027 budget. Our budget for FY27 includes a total budget of $51,031,322, including operating expenditures of $16,819,613, and capital expenditures of $34,211,000. Or $211,709. These slides here are just to review what has already been presented to the board over the last several months. And so this one was presented with our revenue sources. So this shows how all of our expenditures are covered for FY27 and the sources of those revenues. So on the bottom line there, you can see the operating, the capital, and the total revenue sources, and for the expenditure type. This slide here is just a breakdown of our FY27 operating expenditures of the $16.8 million. This is broken out by salaries and benefits and operations and maintenance, and then also by program type for those expenditures. And these are copied directly from the information in your packet. And lastly, we have our FY27 capital expenditures broken out by project type. And for those of us who like charts, we have a pie chart here showing our expenditures broken out by administration, operating, salaries, and capital expenditures. And then just a brief summary of the increase to the budget, which is primarily for service expansion and salaries and benefits. The $34 million of capital expenditures does include $27.7 million in carry forwards. The major investments for this year include the Casper maintenance facility, bus purchases, the DCC, bike and ped infrastructure, and bus stop infrastructure. So I think before we proceed to the action item, I will take any questions.
Megan. Board, are there any questions or comments?
I have a question. Megan, how do we capture, last month, we discussed some, double entry on some, advances on grants, and that we had to repay that because we double invoiced. Is that captured in this? Does that inflate these figures?
So that's all happening this year. And really, it's just an offsetting entry. And so what happened with those is that they were just drawn against the wrong grant. And so we would just reverse the capital revenue and book it again as operating.
And that'll be closed out this fiscal year ending, and this new budget won't have any of that.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think, do I,
Are we good? Can I get a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2027 budget?
So,
I'll second.
yes, I don't believe that you need a cell can do that.
Okay, great.
I'll move. Thank you. I'll move to approve the budget.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that carries. Thank you, Megan.
Can we just take a moment to,
Yes.
we're not supposed to have chat turn on, so. Can you look and see if there was a comment from Scott? Scott, did we miss a comment from you?
Yes, sorry, on the issue about the review, I didn't hear a motion or a second.
There was
Right.
no recommended action. Should we alter that?
No, well, I don't think the question, there was no recommended action, but I also don't think that the board actually took any action on that to give you direction.
Oh, for
Or-
the,
I'd like you to go back and take that and make it an action item.
Okay.
Would you like me to repeat what the
Yes,
action was?
thanks.
Because I wrote it.
Thank you.
The proposed action is for a scope of work to be developed for a third party to conduct a special review prior to the completion of the fiscal year 2026 audit, with the scope and schedule to be approved by chair and vice chair and interim CEO.
Thank you.
I'll move to do that. What Heather said.
Does that work, Scott?
That works. You need
All
a
right.
second and a vote.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, that carries. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you for catching up.
Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't quick enough on the trigger.
We just don't monitor chat for everyone who's on this meeting. Mountain Light does not use chat as part of the public meeting, so we don't monitor it. So I apologize for missing that.
Okay, we are down to Chief Executive Officer Transition Decisions. Heather or Kate?
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. Kate Morley, interim CEO. We have 4 questions in front of the board today related to upcoming transition decisions. And I'm going to walk you through each of those. Sorry, I'm not used to using this clicker. Do I control it or do
You should, you have to click back on the back of that screen. Good work. Okay, thank you.
So the first question is identifying members of a hiring committee. And you really have 2 options in front of you because of the size of your board. You can either have all 5 members participate as the hiring committee. That would mean that your schedule is going to align with board meetings, which could slow the process down just a little bit because we're going to have to make sure things align with meeting dates. But it does provide assurance that the whole board is supportive of the direction and where the hiring process is going. Your other option is to form a hiring subcommittee. However, due to quorum issues, you can only have 2 people on that subcommittee. So it provides more flexibility in scheduling, but for that subcommittee, there would be additional meetings beyond the board meetings. And then there's some risk to not having members who are supportive of decisions of that smaller committee. So those are really the 2 choices in front of you for a hiring committee. The next decision in front of you is to conduct a board retreat. And this is a previously discussed item of the board to have a a retreat where you get together and set expectations ahead of bringing a CEO on board. And that's to ensure that everybody's on the same page for that onboarding process and that there's clear expectations for that CEO. This is off budget. We anticipate it's approximately $10,000, so we can fold that into costs at this point, considering that we're starting a new fiscal year. That will be easy for us to just plan for if that's the direction that the board wants to go. The third question in front of you is to approve a scope of work for a recruitment. Based on the last meeting, I heard the board express interest in seeing 3 quotes from different vendors. So we have an HR consultant on board that is TransPro, but the board expressed some interest in seeing a couple other options. We have a draft scope of work in your packet. You can see the main tasks associated with that scope of work here. And then the fourth question in front of you is to approve the transition plan. So CEO and General Manager Domlin has been bringing you a variety of documents, a communications plan, an interim plan, a transition plan, as a package of documents associated with the transition. Based on the decisions that the board has already made regarding hiring an interim CEO, we've consolidated those into a single document that is just a transition plan, combining the things that are left. There are 2 timelines in that. One of them is if you go with a hiring committee. One of them is if you go with waiting for the full board to make decisions. I think there's about a 2-month timeline difference in using the full board versus the hiring committee as you consider those options. And really, those are the questions in front of you that we're seeking some direction on related to the transition. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Or I think we should go through them one by one, if that's all right with you, and we can discuss. And does that sound good? So number 1, identify members of the hiring committee. Can you go back to that slide, please?
Question for Kate. Kate, in regards to a quorum, if we went to all 5 members, that just means that we would have to post it because it's a meeting with quorum. If it's a subcommittee, if it's just 2, then those meetings aren't public posted, or?
Yeah, that's correct. A subcommittee would not require the public posting, and we could be more flexible about timelines. My recommendation, if you went with the all 5 members, would be to just do those at regularly scheduled meetings. So we would pretty regularly or routinely at every board meeting this fall after recess, probably have a topic on the transition and next steps to consider for the board, but not having I would not recommend additional meetings outside of regularly scheduled board meetings. And I see Scott turned his camera on.
Yeah, I did. If a committee, you can have, if you have a committee appointed by the board under the current open meetings law, those would be subject to open meetings because they're appointed by the board and reporting to the board. Now, when you get to employee, you still go into executive session, but they are considered subject to the open meetings law.
So are you saying that just means we just need to post them?
You post it, you'd go into executive session talking about it. Actually, there's a question about what when you're setting what parameters you want for the board, that may be open depending on how that's structured. But the discussions with relation to specific employees or specific recommendations, that's all executive session matters. Unfortunately, you have to be, that's the current state of the law.
Thank you. Member Vasquez?
Yes, thank you. My question is, as far as board members, there's only 5 folks. How many additional folks would be added to this hiring committee? Because, I can't imagine the subcommittee with 2 board members would only be those 2 board members.
So my recommendation would be that the hiring committee be the two board members to help direct staff and the recruiting firm on the process. I would still recommend that final candidates be interviewed by the entire board and selected by the entire board. So it's more of a committee that would move the process forward through separate meetings outside of board meetings. And the board could choose to bring other people into that committee if they wanted to choose, but we're just, but yeah, Heather and I are just proposing that it's the two board members at this point.
And then my follow-up question would be, if it was a subcommittee with two board members, would that quicken the process to through this hiring process?
It would. My estimate was it would save about 2 months in the hiring process.
Okay, thank you.
Member Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. So I think it's important when we're considering this that, even if we do go with the two, like this does not negate the opportunity for input for the rest of the board, right? There's going to be plenty of opportunity for discussions and input and feedback and what have you, although those two members of the board that are selected, if should we go with that option, would have some outsized influence in ultimately the direction. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And I think the board could provide direction as to what they want to empower the subcommittee to make decisions on and what they want to retain or have brought back to them for decision making.
Yeah,
I would say if
I
there's
think.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, if there's a lot of things that the board would like brought back to them, it may be simpler to just use board meetings than to form a separate committee with separate publicly posted meetings, but still be coming to the board on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I'm just, in my experience, right, more input doesn't always equal better input. And I think that sometimes, particularly in the public sector, we tend to over-engineer processes and often not to any better result. So I'd be in favor of just having the smaller subcommittee model.
Thank you. May I clarify what we heard and make sure we're on the same page? And I'm sorry, I see Supervisor Vasquez raised his hand, but a subcommittee would guide and interact with the process, but ultimately the board would be involved in final decisions and outcomes of the process. I just want to make
Correct.
sure that we're all saying the same thing.
Yes.
Thank you. Before I go to Member Vasquez, I want to chime in a little bit here that I believe that we should have it all board members, and this should happen during our typical board meetings. In speaking with interim CEO Morley, I'm hearing from her and I feel the same, that we're not in a huge hurry to stay within the timeline of November. So we have a little bit more time on our hands, and there's only 5 of us. So going from 2 to 5, it's not like we're a big board. And I feel like all 5 of us should have equal input on how this moves forward, and we should not be in a rush. And having it at our regular board meetings, to me, streamlines a little bit. It's less chance for communication to get lost, and the 5 of us would have equal opportunity to make sure that we're moving forward aligned. So that's my 2 cents, and I see that Member Vasquez has his hands up.
Thank you. Sorry, trying to get myself unmuted here. I was, before what you said, Miranda, I was really leaning towards a 2-member because of just the expediting the process. While we're not in any rush, I do think there's value in moving the process forward quicker because we have the overlap of our current CEO and our interim CEO. And so for me, that's where I would lean a little bit more towards the subcommittee. However, based on what you just said about all 5 of us and just streamlining it through meetings, I could be okay with that as well. So you convinced me to kind of stay neutral. I'll go either way the rest of the board wants to go. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, Chair.
I agree with the chair, because if we did a subcommittee, there's 2. If we did the whole board, which is still just 5, if one can't make it, you know, we're entering summer break and stuff, we can still conduct without having to delay and reschedule. And you know, the timing is an issue, but not really, because we have an interim, not like we don't have an interim appointed where then we're up against the wall. And I think that it is something that we should collectively move through, so there's no, how did you get here? Why did you, you know, decide to go in that direction? And I just think that as a board, we need to be all on the same page and go through those discussions. So I'm gonna go with all 5 members. And maybe have a special meeting to kick it off, to outline what all that looks like. We're all about special meetings lately, so. But yeah, July is gonna be rough, you know, but if we could do some, if we could have some direction and agreement before the spring, the summer break, whatever it is, spring, winter, summer break in July, I think that would be helpful.
And I would like to clarify with interim Morley. When we talk about this with the 5, yes, it will add on 2 months, and I want to make sure that you are, because you have expressed you're good with that with me, but how are you? Can you tell us how you're feeling?
Yeah, when I accepted this role, there was no guarantee as to the timeline of the interim. And so I did so knowing that it is an indefined period of time, and I'm willing to serve as long as it takes the board.
Thank you.
Just so you know, Kate, I did the same thing at the shelter, expecting 3 months, and it was 15 months. So be prepared.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kate, the plan, that extra 2 months is really taking into account that no action would be happening in the month of July. So July is our month recess, and so I know a lot of people on the board plan other things during that month specifically, so it doesn't interfere with our service to online. And so my assumption is that the plan is that we really hit the ground running come August, and that's where the timeline fits in. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right.
So I believe what I'm hearing is that we are all good with the 5 board members moving forward with the being the hiring committee.
We need to, I think you need to have a motion on that.
Should we do it at the end?
Yeah, because we've only discussed item 1 of
Right.
the.
So at the end, I will go through it.
Yeah.
Okay. The board retreat. I think the big question is, do we want to do this ahead of hiring a new CEO? Or perhaps wait until we have a new CEO identified? And that way we can do the retreat, which I think is important, but have it in line with the new CEO. I fear that if we do it ahead of time, we're not having that chance to have the bonding moment with the new CEO to cohesively do the retreat together and set the expectations. Sure, go ahead.
My understanding of what is being proposed here is put forward to kind of align on what our expectations are for the new CEO before we go out and start searching for someone. Is that correct, Kate, or?
I may let Heather chime in here, but I read it a little bit differently, that this could be concurrent while you were searching for a new CEO. And so you'd already have a job description and potentially be seeking candidates before you had this. I think a different alternative is to do this ahead of making a job description, if that was a choice of the board.
So what I proposed in the original intent of my proposal was, as Kate said, to do them concurrent, and that was to take advantage of time. The goal would be to complete the retreat before you hire for exactly the reasons that you just offered, Director Matthews, which is really creating those roles and expectations. I think we can all agree that it's been a challenging 6 months of setting roles and expectations. And this was something that, regardless of my retirement, I was going to recommend that we go through as an agency. I think it does allow the board to be really clear as they hire a new CEO of saying, this is what you're walking into as you make that offer and those decisions. So that was the goal of the retreat being completed prior to an offer and the onboarding of a new CEO. But yes, it was intended to run concurrent to take advantage of the time.
Any thoughts, questions on this?
Chair, is a $10,000 budget enough to get us to Hawaii?
Some people who are online. Oh, yeah. So I could go either way. I would be curious with a new CEO. Is it helpful to have them part of the retreat so that we can make sure that we're setting those expectations with the new CEO? I understand we want to have alignment prior to the CEO. To me, that's maybe a little bit different of what we want to see in the CEO. That could be in the job description, that could be in our meetings, looking for that CEO. I just, having a new CEO is a big deal, and I feel like they should be part of helping us set those expectations. I'm assuming the new CEO will run things very differently than Heather, and we will want to work through that, but maybe I'm not in the majority of this. So I would really love some other feedback.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess what I'm hearing is that like, there's two problems here. One is before we hire a CEO, and the other is after. And the after, I think, is critical for us to work with the new CEO in a retreat type environment. I think that helps set the stage, clarify expectations, deliverables, things of that sort. As this board's done a lot of work in preparation for setting that platform for a CEO change in the recent 12 to 24 months. But the other is this board ready to launch this process? And maybe the retreat is really more about our ability to be reassured that our readiness is intact, that we're on the same page, that we clearly understand based on the work we've done about how we've set those expectations up for that partnership with our new CEO. And so while we're looking at this from a retreat, maybe it's more than one. Maybe the reality is that as a board, we do need to retreat on this topic, entering into a very critical, important hiring process to make sure that we're set. And then when we finally do make the decision to extend an offer and hire a CEO, we retreat that individual within the first 45 days they're on staff to help clarify those expectations and making sure that we're learning from each other as we enter this new partnership.
I really like where you're going. I would be a fan of that if we can figure out budget wise how to make that happen.
Chair, do we need it to be a retreat for us to carve out a couple of hours in this room to talk about expectations and board alignment, and then do a retreat where it's more about vision planning and stuff with the new CEO, so that we don't over retreat ourselves. Just carve out,
Right.
I think we can hammer it out in a 4-hour session, morning session. Just to really stay focused on it and get it narrowed out. Am I right?
So Kate, can we kind of punt this to you and Heather to kind of design, hearing what the feedback, I think I'm in alignment. And see what we can come up with. Maybe it's not 2 retreats, maybe it's a mini one and then a full retreat. See you.
Yeah, there is a draft scope of work in your packet, and that's what the recommendation is tied to. So I would just recommend that you don't approve that particular scope of work, but direct us to modify the scope of work according to the budget, and that would work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, he gives thumbs up.
Yeah. Living.
I figured you didn't need to hear more statements from me. I like the idea of a mini retreat beforehand and then a full retreat once we have the new CEO. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving to approve scope of work for a recruitment. Can I start this off? I like this. I think I would like to add another bullet point, and this might be coming out of nowhere for some, but I'm interested in seeing what it would look like to have Mountain Line and Metro Plan. I don't know if merging is the right word, but having it very in line with each other. I know that other organizations and municipalities do this. Kate, if you had any information on that, I would love it. And maybe you can explain further what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so there are many organizations where the MPO and the transit agency are one entity. And it has been a discussion here in the FMPO region in the past as well. Within the state of Arizona, Y-Plan, the Yavapai MPO runs the transit system there. I know that this is a similar situation up in Grand Junction, but it is a model across the country that people do this. Outside of those anecdotes, I don't have a lot of information right now, but if the board is interested, I think we could pull together information for you on what that looks like. And then if the board was still interested, there'd obviously have to be an associated conversation with the Metro Plan board on this topic. I think that all would need to happen before a recruitment, because that changes the job description. It changes who we're recruiting for. It impacts the MPO director's job. So lots of considerations. I think there are opportunities for some cost savings measures and streamlined efficiency. I think that there are risks associated with partners buy-in or membership buy-in into the neutrality of the MPO and the ability to not be overly focused on transit. So there are pros and cons, but I think all that would need to essentially be studied and brought back to the board. We could insert that as a step in this process and bring something to that August board meeting for consideration. If there was interest in that, then there'd have to be the associated conversations with the MPO board. So at that point, you probably are looking at an interim CEO of Mountain Line, probably through the end of the next fiscal year would be my guess, if you wanted to consider that route.
Sure. Go ahead. I definitely think that it's worth understanding and considering. Maybe at the end of the day, we'll say, yeah, it just won't work for, both parties. But I'd like to go through that exercise and, knowing that that does push out that scenario where the interim CEO is here for longer than she thought. But I just like more information on it, and since we have the, and I don't want to take for granted our luxury of having an interim CEO, but I think if we're gonna do it, we should do it right, and so we should look at all possibilities, because this is an opportunity for us to just kind of think outside the box and say, well, now that this is happening, what about this, what about that, and if we go back to square one and just go out for recruitment on a CEO for Mountain Lion at the end of the day, then that's fine. If there's a merger or combination that takes place, what does that look like? And I think those are good discussions to have before we commit to another, 10, 20 years of a CEO structure. So.
Thank you. Scott, you have your hand up?
Yes, just real quick. I know that just Valley Metro operates under two boards, but they have a combined CEO, reports to both boards. And that's a model. It has some complications, but that is a model that they've been using for a long time.
Those are both transit related boards, to clarify.
Yeah.
So a little different. So Valley Metro is under MAG, Maricopa County Association of Governments, which is just a MPO on speed. It's bigger. But the Valley Metro CEO runs both. Their board runs both transit and rail, which are two different authorities, if you will. A little different than what we're talking about. So I just wanted you to understand that, but there are plenty of models.
Thoughts, questions from the board? So I would like to have more information brought back to the August meeting. And I'm committed on my own to do some research and better understand how this could look as well. Do anyone on the board, are we good with that? Does anyone oppose making that an additional point?
So you would like, just for the purpose of our minutes, the scope of work for recruitment is being tabled till August. For now.
I have a clarifying question, just back to that bullet point, Liz. What do you mean by transition training to staff and leaders? How is that tied into a new CEO?
So the scope of work talks about the need to bring the team along through the transition process, get them prepared to have a new CEO, set the stage for that, but then also it's not just staff, it was our partner, our member agency staff members as well. So just preparing the whole organization for the transition of a CEO.
Transition in the new CEO or the transition of?
Sorry, the transition to your permanent CEO position.
Thank you. I think we have direction on that. Approve the transition plan.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may, I would also recommend tabling this one alongside the other one because there's a timeline in it. And we may just want to take those two items together when we're ready in August.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Okay, so I think we do need to do a motion, and Heather, I know you've been over there taping. Can you?
Yeah, so the two items that they heard as direction from this board is one, that the board serves as a hiring committee for this position, and two, Heather and Kate to develop an approach regarding the governance retreat idea, and that the recruitment and the transition plan are tabled until staff bring back more information on the concept of, I'll call it merging the agencies for lack of better words this time.
Thank you, Heather.
Yep.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Okay, we have a discussion item. Request for statement of obligation. You're up, my friend.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ann Dunno, Capital Development Project Manager. This is an action item for the board. I am seeking a approval of the request for RSOQ 2022-400, a downtown connection center civil engineering change order for a civic space task order number 6. This is a task order an amount of $94,749 for the 60% design of the civic space under the contract with Ardura. And this would additionally authorize the CEO and general manager to execute the task order number 6. And I am asking the board if you have any questions from the staff report that I can answer.
Board, any questions? Not seeing any.
Then I am seeking a motion.
And a motion. So moved. Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item is another action item. It's a change order request for the Caspar Maintenance Facility, change order number 2 for the Lumen relocation delay. There is a little more background on this item. This change order is in the amount of $205,656.08. The background on this issue emerged. Well, first of all, there is an existing fiber line on Mountain Line property that is adjacent to the Pep Boys boundary area on our property that was identified to be in conflict with the future maintenance garage and the building. This was identified early on in design in about fall of 2024. So we began working with Lumen to coordinate in late fall 2024. Lumen has their whole process to be working on their relocation design, permitting for their own contractors to do the work. They were scheduled to complete that work by mid-March 2026. They did discover a AT&T line in their manhole on about March 27th. So they were supposed to have been done for Mountain Line, so we could begin our construction in that area by mid-March. They were already tracking to be a little bit late due to some construction kind of in the road out on Caspar. They discovered this AT&T line that paused, really slowed down the relocation. They had to coordinate with they found out they had a sublease that was from the late 80s, I believe. So the punchline is Mountain Line did send a letter to Lumen stating that if they were not able to complete the work by April 22nd, that Mountain Line would need to pause the project. We continue to work in a collaborative manner with Lumen, with our team, trying to work through details. They were not able to complete the work by April 22nd, but they were able to complete all of the work by May 19th. In that timeline, Kinney, the contractor, did what they could on site, but they did have to pause the project formally from April 28th through May 22nd, which resulted in 18 working days of delay. And that is which was due to demobilization, resequencing of the subcontractors, just that cost and their general conditions and that component of just the scheduled delay resulted in the $205,000 change order. In order to continue, we are seeking approval of this change order to keep the project whole so we can keep moving. But Mountain Line may pursue a claim recovery with Lumen, with Mountain Line Legal. And with that, I'm asking the board if you have questions.
Board, any questions? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item is a change order for number one for the maintenance facility for IT data, cabling, security access system, and cameras. So this change order was always planned to be a future change order. We had accounted for this in the budget. It had to do with bringing on Kinney with their subcontractor, their electrical, their subs that coordinate with these groups. And so the recommendation was, let's get the GMP started, get our subs underway, then you scope what you need with your team, with IT and facilities for these systems, and then bring it back as a change order. So this is not a surprise change order, if you will. This amount is change order number one to the GMP, an amount of $386,960.24 for the IT data, security access, and cameras to Kinney Construction. And this would authorize the CEO and general manager to execute change order number one.
So just for clarification, I'm trying to wipe the cobwebs out of my brain because I used to do construction management accounting. Why was this not a line item if we knew that this was gonna be an expense in the process? Why is it a change order versus it was just part of the line item budget?
So when we were getting the GMP underway at the time, which technically we didn't have final city approved plans, that process took probably 6 months after the GMP was approved. We had final plans. So with the CMAR process, you will often enter into a GMP before you have the final plans. So they had some contingency built into the GMP, which we have used some of the contractor contingency to account for plan changes that occurred after the GMP. The direction from Kinney, when I say it was it's in the, what we call the tracking project budget. I had identified line items outside of the GMP that we were starting to scope with IT and facilities on the needs for security. And so we had placeholder budgets, if you will, under what I call the master project budget for the project. And the recommendation from was Kinney said, we wanted to make sure we got there's a lot of technical feedback between the electrical groups and IT cabling and the contractor and the desire for what IT needs and their unique needs. And so they just said it's easier to have that group on board. At the time, also security they were trying to kind of figure out, facilities was trying to figure out what they wanted. So bringing on those groups after would work with the sequencing of the project. And so it didn't change like the net cost of the project, because we already knew we were going to have those costs, if that makes sense. It was in the project budget. Yes, it was in the.
So it's pulled out of contingencies then, or it was in the budget?
Yes, it's in the overall shadow project budget that we have, essentially a $26 million project budget for construction. Some is encumbered for GMP, and then you have outside of those what I call line items that we're tracking for, IT, fleet equipment. We have a line item for fleet equipment for day one that the grant would be able to cover. So I'm trying to preserve that, amount in this whole process so they can buy their, a few pieces of equipment. So yeah, it's like a forecasting expenses for the project. So it was always part of the project budget, just hadn't been put in the GMP. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome back.
The next item is a change order for the first mile, last mile project. This is change order number one under GMP number two. And GMP number two, just a reminder, is to construct 8 pedestrian crossings, 3 on Highway 180, 5 on Solier. This
change order number 2, an amount of $98,863, is for a curb bump out that was identified, again, in that process where the GMP was done before the city had fully reviewed the final plans and issued the permit. Again, it was timing to get subcontractors underway. And it was essentially an oversight really on Kinney's part, not seeing that there was a curb bump identified, from at the final plan set. So they had to reconcile that to be able to achieve the final design. And there is funding under this grant for this change order.
Thank you. Any questions? Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Thank you. And I believe this is my last one. This change order is for bus stop design for the Huntington Grant. There's a pedestrian crossing project we're working on. This would allow the design of the relocation of the existing bus stops to be improved as shelter stops to coordinate with that new pedestrian design. And that is an amount of $22,800 for bus stop design to Ardura.
Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Second.
Thanks. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries. Thanks, Anne.
Thank you.
Next, we have request for proposals, fare collection system with John.
Feel kind of sad that I only have one. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. So we've actually used our current fare collection system for 12 years now. So it was implemented in 2014. A separate mobile solution was added in 2021, so 5 years ago. And it's kind of getting long in the tooth, becoming outdated, inefficient. After conducting an RFI last year, we reviewed 15 vendors and kind of got an overview of the state of the art of fare collection systems. It was determined that there had been enough change in fare collection technology that it was time to go out for an RFP and think about replacing our fare collection system. So some key issues that we're running into with our existing systems include hardware failures, inconsistent fare capping, slow QR code scanning, limited data access, and inflexible reporting tools. So that all leads to increased costs and reduced staff productivity. So we issued RFP 2026-170 in February. A 5-member evaluation committee reviewed the 9 submissions, and Masabi, like wasabi, but with an M, received the highest average score. We then invited the top 2 scoring vendors to come and do in-person demonstrations for the evaluation committee and staff in general. And Masabi was selected as the preferred solution. Masabi's platform stands out because it does integrate electronic and mobile ticketing into a single system rather than our two-sided system currently. It offers consistent fare capping across all fare products. So whether it's a smart card, a mobile ticket, offers faster fare validation to reduce dwell time at bus stops. Importantly, offers open loop payments. So open loop is transit speak for credit card payments. So we would be able to offer riders to use their credit cards on board buses. And Also importantly, it offers strong third-party integrations with things like transit app, e-alerts. So those are a couple systems that we already use. And also ties into a local cash digitization network. So allowing people to convert cash and put it on a bus pass. It also offers improved reporting and future scalability. Many vendors, including Mesabi, are moving away from selling day passes on board buses. Offers a lot of challenges. And the industry in general is trending towards using fare capping to make sure people are getting the best value. So Mesabi's solution as it is presented does not offer day pass sales on board. And, but staff believe that with the options for people to convert cash into or load cash onto a bus pass, they will have options all over the city. And a robust rider education campaign will make that transition feasible. So the evaluation committee is recommending award of the contract to Mesabi, an amount not to exceed $409,687. Implementation is actually planned for Q4 of fiscal year 2027. So basically a year from now. We need a strong lean time to make sure we can get all the pieces lined up and the rider education done. So it'll take a full year to implement. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Oh. So I didn't show you the pretty picture. That's an example of the Mesabi validator that would be installed on our buses. Any questions?
Oh, go ahead.
All right. John, I have a question. Just out of, I'm assuming some of the costs here are more, have gone up in comparison to our previous tool. What is the difference there?
The annual cost will actually go down slightly with this solution. It's definitely an expensive startup, initial startup, but the annual cost is estimated to be $44,000 for the Mesabi solution. Right now, we're paying about $51,000 per year for transit fare, plus additional costs for our mobile ticketing.
I think I heard you say that this is adding extra efficiencies into being able to get other systems to talk to each other. Is that right?
Yeah. So right now we have transit fare is our electronic fare collection, so the smart cards. And then we have token transit, which is our mobile ticketing solution. So all that, the reporting is all separate, the data is all separate. So there's a lot of work that goes into merging that when we report out rider fare collection and whatnot. And some of the efficiency, so time efficiency, it'll be faster for boarding, and that's important because every time a card doesn't scan, that's seconds we're adding to delays at a bus stop. Efficiencies for staff will be better reporting on the back end, not just unified, but also access to data. We've also run into issues with third parties that consultants we've tried to work with, not being able to access the data through APIs. So Mesabi offers that support as well.
He asked my question.
Perfect. Any other questions?
Just have a comment. I like where we're going with this. I worry a little bit about the cash for the day pass. Do you feel, given the timeline, that we'll have enough to roll out a very solid campaign to alert those?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's mentioned in the staff report, but I didn't mention it here. one of the strengths of Masabi is they tie into the Incom, also known as Vanilla Direct network. So that would give riders 22 locations out of the gate around Flagstaff. That just within city limits, where they can go in and give cash, put it on a transit card. So they would be able to purchase the transit card there. They'd be able to load cash either on a mobile app or on a physical card. You can also add third-party retailers. So if any store or gas station wants to be a retailer, they can get a stack of cards and they can, there's a portal that Masabi has set up that would allow people to load cash in additional locations. And we would also plan to continue pass sales at locations like the library and Safeway that we currently do. So.
If I may just add to that point, one of the benefits of moving people, a benefit to the rider of us kind of forcing the move from cash on bus day passes to this preloaded system is, once they're in this preloaded system, they automatically get the benefit of fare capping. So when someone gets on the bus and they're buying that day pass, they're committing to use it at least twice that day. Versus this gives someone the ability to pay once, and then if they never ride again, they only pay one way that day. But when they pay that second time, they automatically got the fare capping associated, which is really supposed to help riders with their outlay for transit services. So this helps push people into that fare capping solution, which we think to the rider is a huge benefit. We just have never quite gotten that message all the way out there.
And fare capping extends so we can do monthly fare capping. So rather than paying the cash amount every day for 30 days, if people ride that often, if they're tapping, once they pay the equivalent of a monthly pass, then the rest of the month is free.
Any other questions? I'm not seeing any. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Thanks, John.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, looks like we're down to procurement resolution. Zero to staff on the next. Megan.
Right. Let's see, this item is to discuss a proposed purchasing resolution for fiscal year 2027. This is revised from the previous purchasing resolution that had been adopted for many years. Just to provide some history, our procurement policy was adopted in August of 2022. And in the purchasing policy, it delegates authority to the CEO for approval of purchases of 100,000 or lower than 100,000, so 999,000 or lower. And then it also assigns authority to the board for purchases of $100,000 or greater. And it also assigns authority for change orders of lower amount of $20,000 or 15% of the contract value. So that's the lesser of $20,000 or 15% of the contract value. And so this is why you're seeing some of Andeno's items coming to the board for $25,000 for these change orders, because the purchasing policy has that lower threshold. The prior resolution, some of the items that were assigned to the authority to the CEO were for all items in the procurement list attached to the annual resolution, for items in the currently adopted budget, for items in the financial plan with secured funds for a future year, and for procurement supported by the annual grant resolution. So very broad. The purchasing resolution also did note that any controversial items or items with a high community impact were also to be presented to the board for formal action. So for the changes, well, we were looking at what changes to make to the board at the request of the board. We were trying to balance like bringing new and notable items to the board while keeping some smaller and routine items to the CEO for authority, just to avoid wasting board time. And I mean, these routine items that don't necessarily need to be presented in public meeting. So while we were looking at how to make that happen, we are presenting the purchasing resolution. The full language is in your packet, but the key items are here. So what this would do would assign CEO authority for renewal of previously awarded contracts in annual amounts of 100,000 or higher. So currently, just standard renewals of 100,000 do need to go to the board, even if it's just a regular item that we purchase every year, like fuel or even some of those other items. This would allow the CEO to just go ahead and approve those after initial approval by the board for the first year of the contract. It would also assign the CEO authority for no cost extensions of awarded contracts and change orders to contracts with aggregate sums for each contract or project under $100,000 annually. So some of these items that Anne had been doing, the $20,000 or $25,000, those could be delegated to the CEO for approval. So it would bring that change order threshold from 20,000 to 100,000, no percent contract value there, just the $100,000 threshold. And this would also assign the CEO authority for issuance of procurements, with the contracts coming to the board after the procurement had been finalized. Let's see. So some other items in here is that the new contracts of $100,000 or higher shall require board approval. Again, so just the new ones, approvals or renewals going to the CEO in subsequent years. It would also allow the CEO to present additional delegation resolutions for specific projects as the budgets are approved. So this would be for a specific like construction project. The CEO may request that to retain the purchasing authority for all of the contracts related to that specific project. And then it also defines that regular communication will be provided to the board for projects and contracts over $100,000. So any of those renewals or any items that had been approved as a delegation authority for a specific project. And then finally, the board may request any item that had come to their attention to be brought to the board for presentation or approval, regardless of the contract value. So are there any questions on the current proposal?
Thank you, Megan. Board, any questions?
I'll just make a comment. I did like this process of these change orders and understanding what was going on. It's very helpful to stay just in the know. These are really projects and to know why things happen is important, so I appreciate that. And if I understand this new purchasing resolution, it addresses some of the comments and concerns that we've had in the past to just, again, being in the know before things happen. It's good. So.
I do have one more slide about just like the benefits of this, what we are proposing, and just to note that it would facilitate effective and efficient board meetings, focus on policy and transit program planning, and keep some of the smaller routine items off of the agenda. And it also allows us to keep business moving for the routine items. And it allows the CEO to complete the approvals and administrative oversight for the agency. And it also creates the opportunity to be nimble in decision-making and moving projects forward. So as Director Matthews had mentioned, we can talk about some alternatives to the current proposed purchasing resolution. So we could adjust it to bring the change order threshold down lower. Right now, we're proposing $100,000, but if we want to bring it back down to the $20,000 threshold, we can certainly do that. So some of the choices some of the alternatives to the current proposal are, number one, we just approve the resolution as presented. Or we could return board authority for all procurement awards of $100,000 or greater. Or we could modify the resolution. So cap the amount at greater than $100,000, but less than some undetermined amount. We could assign authority to see over projects presented as information to the board prior to the procurement or award, or we are open to suggestions.
What are thoughts and concerns or questions from the board? Not seeing any. So.
Okay, so do we want to make we could approve, it could be approved today, or we could make some revisions and come back at a future meeting.
Are we ready to approve today, board? If we are, I can take a motion.
So did we want to revise the change order threshold? I think.
Well,
So
so I'm on the right page. The change orders we saw were over $100,000, right?
some of them were, yes. So if we looked at the ones that, I think there was one for 22,000, that would not have come. There was another one for, I think, 300,000 for the IT security at CASPAR. So that one would be dependent on if the board had assigned authority to the CEO for all contracts related to the CASPAR maintenance facility. And that would be something that would be addressed as that budget was approved. So if you would still like to see all of those change orders, that could be defined in a purchasing resolution specific for that project.
So Chair, I'm fine with anything over 100,000. I mean, it's, not only just being in the know, but it also allows us to ask questions to see, is there a concern with project management? Like, why is this, coming back? Why did this have to happen? And it just allows us a conversation to have, at least be educated in what transpired around that. But, the projects that we have most of the time were pretty significant. So I'm fine with changing it to anything over 100,000.
Excellent. And that's how it is written in the resolution.
Any other thoughts?
It's like Scott has something.
Yeah, Chair, and I want to make sure we're clear, the procurement resolution is delegating authority above $100,000 to the CEO on those specific, on just those specific items. So recurring, and if it's not one of the specific items listed in the procurement resolution above $100,000, it would come to the board. Separate from the procurement resolution, the procurement policy provides that anything changes or contracts below $100,000, or the CEO already has that authority. Just want to make sure how this interacts with what exists in the policy.
So just make sure I'm clear, because I'm probably not. Under 2, executing contracts that support projects that are within the approved fiscal budget.
Those would be for items currently defined in the purchasing policy or the purchasing resolution that are included in the budget.
I think I have a problem with that.
You go back to the slide where you talked about the 4 things being accomplished, because I think maybe that really helps.
Right.
So I think if I can use today's purchases as an example, the $409,000 award for fair collection, that's a new contract, it would come to the board under this resolution. The award of the 386,000 change order would not have come to the board because it's under those change orders. Right?
Yes.
Or it would because it's not under 100,000, to Lori's point. The 98,000, the 22,000, those would not have.
Those would not.
386 would have. Unless the board took action with the original award that said, for this project and this contract award, all change orders are delegated to the CEO. That would be a secondary step at the time of the award.
So what's catching me is, it's not on here like it was on that other screen. I'm struggling with having something captured in a budget. Because it may not be a contract we have today, but we're budgeting for $3 million for this project in the future. And then we don't see it again because we approved that up to $3 million, right?
I might be able to help. That's actually a limiting language, not a broadening language from what's up here. So we could not do an off-budget procurement under this policy. It would have to be something that was fitting within the budget that we already had. So let's say the retreat we talked about earlier was $150,000 because we were all going to Hawaii.
Right.
That would have been off budget, and so it would have had to come to you at the 150.
But if we have in our budget that we know we're going to replace, you know, we have a cycle of replacing buses. Because those are big ticket items. So we approve a budget to say, we know in the next 3 years, 5 years, we're gonna replace 5 buses. Then if that was in the budget, we wouldn't see those purchases.
The first time the contract came forward, you would approve the original contract with Gillette, for example. And then, because it's over $100,000, those buses would still come back to you unless at the time of the original purchase of the buses, you said, and you can purchase 6 more buses without coming back.
That's what I just want to clarify. I don't want to just have it blanket in the budget and then that I.
So if we made that slide that you're referencing, if you go back down now to the recommendation, so there's 2 parts to the recommendation. One is to adopt this resolution as amended by Kate and Megan, which allows us, and we have a procurement policy already in place. So what those 2 mechanisms allow us to do is approve and award procurements within those mechanisms and as per those documents. But those mechanisms sit on top, requiring those interactions with the board of directors, not both.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time to do that.
Any other questions? So we do need a motion.
I think we need a motion.
Motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Just you and me.
Yes, it's a Laura utility show.
Yeah. Any further discussion on this item?
Yes, I have a question. Taking into Scott's earlier comment about, I just want to make sure that this motion addresses his concerns about the CEO. And so Scott, is the language in the information on the screen align with your expectations of making it crystal clear about the CEO's scope of authority here?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? That carries. Thank you, Megan. Thank you for all of your work. Moving down to resolution, collective grant resolution, Jackie.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is sort of a follow-up to a continuation of what Megan just presented. So every year, we typically have the board has adopted a grant resolution. We bring it to you every year. So this is for fiscal year 2027. This allows Mountain Line to apply for and execute grants as awarded through the federal, through FTA and ADOT. These grants often have a tight timeline, and everything that we have heard from our partners at FTA in the meetings we've attended over the last several months is that those timelines are only going to get tighter when new grants are announced. So oftentimes if we have to get individual
approvals from the board of directors for each grant application, there could be timing issues with that based on when the application opens and when we need to submit. So every application that we submit is captured either is captured in our budget, is captured in our financial plan, is captured in Metro Plan's TIP, the Transportation Improvement Plan, the transit program part of it, which the Metro Plan board does adopt. So these are all, everything that we are applying for. You have seen a lot of it in Megan's presentation. You've seen it in the capital plan. We are applying for things that you have been made aware of through the various processes that we have. So it is this resolution basically just, it gives just for this 1 year, it comes back to you every year. So for the fiscal year, gives Mountain Line the authority to submit and act on successful applications. I am happy to answer any questions about that.
Any questions? I'm not seeing any, so can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2026-200?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Oh, sorry.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, that carries. Thank you, Jackie. Free fair consideration. Heather.
I have no presentation for you. So this is a recommendation as a result of last month's conversation about Fare Free. So the recommendation is on the slide. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Heather. Any questions? Can I get a motion to cease activities to explore how to make Mountain Line fare free until such time? There a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. And delegations of authority, other meetings.
Megan, do you want me to cover this in her absence?
I can, but I mean, if you're already there, it's very small.
It's very small. So part of the prior procurement resolution, and that will be carried into future procurement resolution, as well as grant resolution and authority resolutions that have been adopted by this board of directors. This is meant to be our monthly update on the actions that we take on your behalf as granted authority. So the first one is that we have signed a lease agreement with Coconino County. We would not normally bring this type of lease agreement to you, but it is an IGA with Coconino County essentially, which is one of our public partners. And this is enabling the county to use this room for election activities in July and November. We did this with them last year. It works well. It is allowed by our federal grant. There's no fiscal impact. That was the only item under delegation of authority.
Okay. Any questions on that? Thank you, Heather. You're down.
You have the two progress reports. I just,
Okay.
or we have a contingent on this.
We can just approve the consent items as
Right.
stated.
In one motion.
Chair, I move that we approve the consent item number 19 and 20 as presented.
There a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries. On to our executive session. So we need to
Motion to move.
get a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
There's a second.
I'll second.
All in favor of going into executive session?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're moving in.
All right, so we'll let staff leave the room. We'll get all of us moved over into the room. I have invited, I hope this is okay with you, Vice Chair Sweet and Chair Mayor, Kate, Jackie to participate in this conversation. It is a brief update on work process. Okay, sorry for everyone. We recognized Ryan and we're on to recognizing Rhonda for 15 years. Rhonda has been impactful in her role, creating consistency in materials and protocols while supporting staff and the board with all the little things that most of us assume just happen. She's also a true champion for being well and taking care of ourselves. She's chaired our wellness committee for many of her years of service. Mountain Line runs like a well-oiled machine thanks to Rhonda's effort, time, and support. Congratulations, Rhonda, on 15 magnificent years. We're grateful to have the opportunity to work. Also, can you click on the other screen, Rob?
Oh. She just wants hers.
And I'm glad John came back. We're also celebrating John. John actually joined Mountain Line immediately upon our separation from Coconino County. He was our first external transit team hire. So all of us came from Coconino County as transit team members, and we immediately decided to call John and ask him if he wanted a job and took him with us. John has been responsible for setting up our tech services from day one. Websites to servers, cellular to Wi-Fi, you name it, he's done it. In his tenure, he's also been responsible for relocating us twice. He relocated us from Huffer Lane to Caspar and from Caspar to DCC. He makes it feel like a walk in the park, and I know it's actually not that simple. John is a reliable team member who leads with grace and kindness. Thank you, John, for your many contributions to our success, and congratulations on 20 years. If you'd like, I can roll right to current events. Great. Couple of brief current events. We, of course, have all the other wonderful anniversaries, and there's so many of them because we are looking at 3 years. I just have to tell you quickly, Jimmy Gray and I celebrated his 20th anniversary last year. And I said, will we celebrate 21? And he said, no way. We are celebrating Jimmy's 21st. And that's after he has served at NAU for a very long time in his groundskeeping position and actually retired from there. Anne Dono, who presented today, and I don't see came back in the room, celebrating 12 years. Here's some more long anniversaries. Karen Moeller, 12 years. And that's after she served as a school teacher with FUSD and retired from that role. Dave Wessel with MetroPlan, celebrating 29 years in total, 6 of those with Mountain Line. Aaliyah is celebrating 4 years in our finance division. 4 years for Michael Langen, 3 years for Blaine Williams, 2 years for Susan Sloan, and 2 years for Rodney Kramer. These are some of the key team members that ensure we run smoothly out there, a lot of them providing great customer service. Mark Attenberger is our fleet supervisor, celebrating 18 years. Andy Brown, the transit operator, is celebrating 14. Jerry is celebrating 8, and Jose celebrating 4 years. Yes, there's more. Maria is celebrating 4 years. Andre Mosey, who just became a relief supervisor, is celebrating his 2nd anniversary. Arlinda Cody, who works part-time for us and part-time for the school district, celebrating 2 years. And Harriet Cody, her sister, celebrating 2 years here at Mountain Line full-time. Summer is a big hire period for Mountain Line. When we see one of our largest groups of transition, I will tell you next year you will see a lot of new employees celebrating their first anniversaries, knock on wood. But it's not because we've lost employees. This year, we've not seen a large amount of attrition over the summer, which was great to see. I would like to introduce to you a couple new staff who are here today. Mark Perla, who is here in the room at the back, is our new Deputy General Manager of Operations. I've shared with you a couple really great things about Mark. We're very excited. He's just finishing his 2nd week. And we have certainly put him to work right away. Mark has over 20 years in the transit industry, doing fleet, facilities, and transit oversight. Sarah Dector, also here in the room with us, celebrating her 3rd day as our planning director. And we're so grateful to have her bring all that experience from the City of Flagstaff and what goes on in our community to our transit programs. Couple of events. Mountain Line will have an entry in the Pride in the Pines Parade this weekend. And we will also participate in the Route 66 Centennial event on we did participate, in the Centennial event on June 6th. We had free service and did historic tours on our actual Route 66 bus. The Route 66 graphic that you see here is actually a sticker designed by one of our staff members. And that's been wildly popular amongst our own staff. Do we have some?
Love it.
We will, they are awesome. We're gonna have to do a rerun of those. Mountain Lion.
So a sticker or something.
It is a sticker as well. I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
One of each.
Mountain Lion is working with the city of Flagstaff to provide shuttle service to and from the parking area for the drone show at Fox Glen Park. We will also be in the 4th of July parade. Vice Chair Mayor is going to join us still. So all of you are welcome to join us in these parade events. We don't do a good job of inviting you. And then I mentioned the lease with county elections. We are hosting the primary in this building on July 22nd. And as I mentioned, this is our second time doing this, and we're proud to assist the community with that opportunity. Sorry, Rhonda took the mouse. That's okay. I can't click. As I mentioned, we do have a lot of people in training. Last month, we graduated 5 people. We have 11 more in training right now, and 2 of those being supervisors. Several of those team members already have CDLs. We're excited to attract people that have CDLs, some out of the Phoenix area. We're glad to teach them our way and welcome them to our team. We are conducting employees engagement survey number 2 this year. As you remember, in the fall, we had several comments that we should do this again after 6 months because of changes in supervision. So we did open it in late May, should close this week with a report back to you and the findings of that. And I had asked Anne to attend to talk about CASPAR.
What about CASPAR? Let me.
So I can't, I'll just briefly share with you. Sorry, I won't be able to answer a lot of questions. We have hit another delay on the CASPAR maintenance project. So we no more than resolve Lumen and put them back to work to find that there was a water line that is going to create a conflict with our project. So we are still working with the city of Flagstaff on how to mitigate that concern, since the water line delivers water to several properties nearby, not just our property. So I'm sorry, I did ask Anne if she would come and speak, but I think that's good enough unless you have
If there are
questions.
questions, I'll have her come back down.
I don't know the cost of the delay at this point. I would tell you it's not an unusual delay. It just is on the heels of the prior one. So if you drive by, I want you aware there's not construction equipment moving, and we are working as quickly as possible to address that concern. And we will certainly come back to you with what were the impacts of that concern.
I just have a general question, just on construction. I know Blue State comes and does facility audits and stuff. But when the plans were being drawn, and I know Kenny Construction is, top notch, but how was that not detected?
Well, I would like to clarify. We knew the water line was there. We did not know the water line was going to be a conflict with the building. We have recently gone through an adjustment to the footprint, in layman terms, that now has made that water line a conflict with the facility. The adjustment to the footprint was a requirement, and it was discovered by Kenny Construction when they took the designs from HDR. So we're working with HDR and Kenny to quickly figure out how that could have happened. To your point, mostly our focus has been just get it resolved so we can keep moving forward. And we will have these conversations with HDR and Kenny about how did this occur once we're back at work. But you're correct. I mean, we did know the water line was there. I want to be clear. I'm not saying the water line was found. It was discovered to be a problem in relation to the footprint of our building based on a shift that we made, which was 6 inches.
Close to it.
So more to come, and we'll bring an update that's more specific. But I didn't want someone to drive past the property, not see vehicles move, and not understand why there was a delay on the project.
Do we know how long this delay is going to be?
We don't at this time. We can send an update by email in consideration of the recess as soon as possible. I think right now we're still waiting for the city to participate in a conversation about how do we mitigate it. I mean, if it just affected our business, I think we can more quickly mitigate it than the fact that it impacts the hotel.
There's a meeting tomorrow, tomorrow in the city, so we will have a lot more information out on that meeting and everyone is working very hard to find solutions that do not impact the hotel. There's a Super 8 hotel right there, as shutting down water to Pep Boys is a lot different than shutting down water to a hotel property. So everyone is working to try and mitigate the hotel impact.
And we had to move 6 inches, that was.
I didn't know. I will ask Anne to give us a more detailed,
Would you like me, I sent her a message, but she has not seen it. Would you like me to go up and get her so we can answer these now?
can we send it to you with the outcome of tomorrow's meeting?
She could log into, oh, let me just see if I can.
I know we're getting close to the 2-hour window that we prefer. I'm happy to roll it into an update at the end of the week with tomorrow's meeting. If that works, it wouldn't be Friday as a holiday, so early next week. But I'll try and answer all of those questions like, why didn't we know the water line? Why didn't we, why was the building footprint moved? How would they call it?
The overacts.
So, well, if that's okay with you, otherwise we can give Anne some minutes. Okay, so we'll have Sarah and Jackie follow up and work with Kate to get you an update early next week.
Thank you.
More than anything, like I said, I don't want you to drive by. I spoke with Vice Chair last week. She just asked for this to be an item on the 2. Great. And so that's everything in the 2 from staff. I think the last slide is asking if you, the board, have anything for us that was not on the agenda or that you would like to review.
I have a couple of things.
Okay.
One, I am wondering how the board would feel on moving our meetings back to 2 hours and going back to the 10 to noon time slot. Currently, we went to the 4-hour. And I would like to see us go back to 2. I think time is valuable, and I think we can get our meetings back into that time slot.
I'm fine with that.
I'm also supportive.
Great. Are you?
It's getting out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's too early after a long council night.
And I see Supervisor Vasquez also gave us a thumbs up. So can we, moving forward, go back to the 10 to noon time slot?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I please ask for clarification? So the 4-hour requirement is built into the roles and expectations document that the board adopted. So would you like Kate, as the interim CEO, to amend that document to bring back to August for your action? And would you like Rhonda, the clerk of the board, to change the August meeting in the interim?
I would like to say yes on both, because I feel that we do not need a 4-hour meeting.
And I'll just comment that I think it was necessary, given all the stuff that we were having to discuss and all the issues we were having to work through. But I think that's thinning out and we can get back to normal. So I'm in support of both of those suggestions.
Supervisor Vasquez?
Yes, thank you. I'm supportive of pushing it back because I think 8 is too early, and it looks like most of the meetings right now are going 2 hours, but at times they might need a little extra time.
Thank you. And we do not have an ending time on the agenda.
If needed, and it doesn't interrupt other meetings. Just my suggestion, but I'm good with 10 to 12. Thank you.
So we will move the invite back to 2.5 hours to give us that little bit of grace at 12 o'clock. The meeting and the agendas will continue not to contain an end time. So if we can maintain quorum for additional items, we will meet longer. Or we will set up a special meeting or table things that don't have to occur in that month. In the meantime, Kate will revise the roles and expectations for your consideration in August. That's where the 4 hours is captured.
Thank you. My other item is that I believe this is Heather's last board meeting as CEO.
That is correct.
And I would like to just thank you. You've gotten Mountain Line through so much, including, well, COVID. And
Super fun.
you know, you helped us challenge our workforce development, including a CDL driver shortage and the new Caspar facility, and you're working with NEU or you worked with NEU on the CDL course, and of course, helped with the DCC and so much more. So I personally would like to thank you for all that you've done, and hopefully this is, it is not the end of us seeing you.
It is not.
But this is just your last official meeting, and I wanted to take the opportunity to recognize that and to thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. But you aren't going away, not anytime.
Not till November 6th.
Anything else from the board, please?
Yeah, I have two things. One, Heather, I want to compliment you because your years of service as CEO and general manager. I applaud you for the work you've done in these meetings to make sure that you give the employees of Mountain Line and Metro Plan the recognition the way you do. Not all of our boards operate that way. The CEOs don't necessarily share all those milestones in the way that you do, and I think that just demonstrates the kind of leadership you brought to this organization. I know in the evaluations from staff that really shines, and it's a great example of the importance of doing that. And I know employees aren't always here, but I would think if I was on staff, it's great to know that it being recognized or being shared, that information, and it helps with longevity and whatnot. And then two, for you and Kate, and then also fellow board members, in August, at the August meeting, it would be nice to get some insight on how the roundabout is impacting Mountain Line on Lone Tree. Is there going to begin construction on that project in July? All I'm going to find out real quick about the impact. And I have the benefit of seeing the drawings, the renderings of that project and the temporary road system that's being put in place to offset the traffic so that it doesn't delay things. But I know it's going to impact the stations where Mountain Line is at the top there, where the McKinsey is going in. They're getting moved, and it's going to have an impact on students at CCC in particular. They're going to have to walk a lot further, and the project's going to last about a year. And so it would be really good to sort of get us an assessment of like, how is that impacting that route? We'll know more come August because some of the intrusive work will be well underway by then. We'll get a better sense of what that might look like, and I just be helpful for the board to be aware of how that might be impacting the bigger picture of the organization.
Yep, you can do that for sure. We are relocating those stops temporarily, so we will maybe include that in the update we send next week, but we'll bring back in August that bigger discussion.
Anyone online?
Let Supervisor Vasquez back in.
Just giving Ron a second to. Anyone else from the board have anything for the two front? Supervisor Vasquez?
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. My internet cut and I just got back. So unfortunately I missed what everybody else said, but I would like to just say that I really appreciate you, Heather. It's been good working with you over these 5 years that I've been on this board, and I appreciate your leadership and your vision for different things that have been accomplished over your tenure. And we're we've gone through some difficult times recently, but we're in good shape going forward. And so I appreciate all you've done to set us up in that way, and just send you the best in the next chapters coming. And just really appreciate you. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. May I say something? Please. I know it's not from the CEO at this point, and I'll get really emotional, so I'm gonna keep it very, very brief. I didn't realize this was my last board meeting until someone texted me last. Might be a lot of these last moments. I appreciate all of you. Serving as CEO was not something I had in my vision or my plan. I've always felt grateful for the trust that the board placed in me in 2020. And I was so happy to be able to provide continuity to our staff in those very hard 6 months when Erica left and we started the pandemic. The pandemic started 6 weeks after the offer was made to me as for the interim. I learned a lot about myself and our team members. I think the bond that we all have is really a result of those 6 months. What I've been appreciative of in my role as CEO is that I could just string things up and I could just make decisions and I could just carry this agency forward. I didn't think I would love parts of this job, and I was right, there were parts I did not love. And then there were other parts that I learned to love. But I want you all to know that I appreciate the time we've spent. I think all of us have spent the last close to 4 years together. Now I think you've all been on the board close to 4 years. And I appreciate the recognition today, the support you've given me for retirement and transition. And you're right, this is a really good team. They are going to make wonderful things happen in this city, and I'll be watching my glass from afar, and continue to be very proud of what Mountain Line does here in this community. So thanks for giving me.
Heather, just to expand on what I said earlier, leadership is an interesting thing. And so, you know, when you're the CEO, one is the loneliest number. And yeah, there are moments where it's not easy. It's hard. You have to make tough decisions and you don't get to share all the details with everybody. They don't understand truly the why behind it. And recently I've been doing some on my own reflection on things, and I just want to share with you that you always want to, when you're in those kind of leadership roles, you want to leave the place in a better place.
Yes.
At the end, right? It's in a better position where it was when you started. And then at the minimum, that's what a person would like to achieve. But then there's transformative change. And I think the list of things that Chair Sweet shared earlier demonstrate that your leadership isn't leaving Mountain Line in a better place than it was when you arrived. It actually was transformative. Physical footprint, organizationally, really moving the organization from I don't know how to express this any other way, but more of a mom and pop kind of transit system to one that is really aligned with a metropolitan type of environment. And so I just want to, I think it's important to recognize you for that service, that work, because definitely you've left your thumbprint on the organization, and I just want to commend you for that, your service.
Muhammad Ali, I believe I'm attributing this quote right. Service to others is the rent we pay for the time we spend here. That's been my approach to it.
Awesome. Judy.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. All work you've done for us, and it does take someone that's very dedicated. Sleep less than I sleep some nights, you know, with minimum hours, and you stay up all night sometimes thinking about things and how you're gonna go about things. And this year is my 52nd year of being a public servant, and I worked in health, education, housing, infrastructure, and now the board, and always in our leadership. And so I see a lot of improvements, you know, even though I'm just an alternate, I try to make every board meeting in person, and you know, I see a lot of improvements and things happening. And, you know, with the backbone that, with the board and everyone else, you know, working together, listening and being there for one another, it does make a big difference. And everyone has challenges, you know, there's a lot of times, you know, maybe your own staff can challenge you, maybe your own colleagues get that, maybe. And you work that through, but a lot of times, you know, people have faith, all sorts of faith out there and prayers, you know, whatever the traditional, you know, things that they may be doing to help themselves with their mental state or whatever. So I just want to say thank you. You've done a lot of work and you've done, I remember the first day I met you, you know, we were very, very into your work and, you know, you wanted to get things done and you already had them all outlined as to your milestones and what you want to do. And so I just want to say thank you. And then really acknowledging your staff. I think that goes a long ways and then doing the evaluations of yourself, you know, you have nothing to hide at that point in time, you know. So, you know, it's just a matter of tool, you know, to help you better yourself. So just want to say thank you so much, you know, for all the efforts that we've done, all the things that are ongoing now. And, you know, and I'm sure Kate's gonna take it along for a while and then see who else can take the burden. But I just want to say thank you so much for the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
We're gonna do this all again in a few.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Practice.
So fun.
We have our next board meeting on August 19th.
And just a reminder, we do have a TAC meeting in August. It's our new quarterly format. So Kate will be able to give an update at the August board meeting on how that format's going. This is the second TAC meeting. We will also be able to provide you with an update on those new TAC members. I've been working with Kate. She'll be making these items.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not